Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text 28. Anyasyamapi jayayam traya putra asan uttamastamaso raivata iti manvantaradhipatyah. Word for word. Anyasyam, other. Api, also. Jayayam, in the wife. Trayaha, three. Putraha, sons. Asan, there were. Uttamaha, tamasaha, raivataha. Uttama, tamasa and raivata. Iti, thus, manu antara, of the manvantara millennium. Adhipatya, rulers. Adhipatayaha, rulers. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In his other wife, Maharaj Priyavrata begot 3 sons, named Uttama, Tamasa, and Raivata. All of them later took charge of Manvantara millenniums. Purport. In every day of Brahma, there are 14 Manvantaras. The duration of one Manvantara, the lifespan of one Manu, is 71 yugas, and each yuga is 4,320,000,000 years. Almost all the Manus selected to rule the Manvantaras came from the family of Maharaj Priyavrata. 3 of them are particularly mentioned herein, named Uttama, Tamasa, and Raivata. End of purport. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Usually I would have gone to the next verse. The next verse talks about very important teaching in Maharaj Priyavrata's life, how he seemingly got attached to his household life, yet was very detached. So I thought it would be nice to hear from Chandramouli Maharaj as a person of knowledge than me speaking something. So this verse will stay with this purport. There are some nice things, and we'll try to keep it short and try to make it sweet. So yesterday we heard that there were 3 specific sons of Maharaj Priyavrata named Kavi, Mahavira, and Savana. These 3 became great Paramahamsas. That means they were very well trained in becoming renunciates. Now 3 more sons are being named, Uttama, Tamasa, and Raivata. These 3 became great kings, Manus. Manu is considered to be the king of the universe, especially of mankind. And Manu has great responsibility. Manu is responsible in seeing, or responsible for making sure that human beings are given certain codes of conduct by which they can actually become human beings. Just being born into the human species doesn't qualify one as a human being. Being born into a dog qualifies one as a dog, because the dog will perfectly do what a dog is meant to do. Yeah, it's meant to bark, it's meant to scratch the back of its ears. It's very territorial, loyal, and things that are vertically growing from the ground, he knows how to water them. Other than that, the dog cannot think of nicer things to do. But a human being is not like that. A human being is a little crazy. Although born into human species, he likes to behave like the other categories of living beings. He likes to behave like a dog. He likes to behave like a bird. He likes to behave like an insect, etc. Reptile, python. Depends on the modes of nature. So human beings need to be trained. And that training comes from discipline. Without discipline, there cannot be training. This is what we heard recently. And we've been hearing again and again. So this discipline comes from codes of conduct given by Manu. One who lives according to those codes, one becomes a human being. Manu's teachings makes one what's called Manishi or Manava. So Maharaj Priyavrata, he took up this service. We heard recently that when he was given the instruction to become a Manu and take up the responsibility of the universe, He took it up without any resentment. Now, his lack of resentment is exhibited here. Generally, if a person is resentful or not fully convinced about the service he or she has taken up, they may do it gritting their teeth or whining about it, but they will tell others, I made this mistake, you should not make it. You don't do this service, because I'm not convinced that this service is actually a good one. In this case, 3 of his sons became renunciates, and 3 of them took up the same role that he did. In fact, Prabhupada's writing, almost all of the Manus came from Maharaj Priyavrata's family. 3 of them are being called out here: Uttama, Tamasa, and Raivata. And the rest of the Bhagavatam describes the different advents, appearances of the Lord during these different Manus. During Tamasa Manu, Raivata Manu, etc. So Maharaj Priyavrata trained his sons very, very well. I was going to speak about training according to nature, but I'm going to speak a little differently. First of all, we'll just speak about training. A very important verse in the Bhagavatam that appears later in the 11th canto. Oh no, it appears later in this canto, sorry. Right? Pita Nasasya Janini appears in this canto. So this verse, Pita Nasasya Janini Nasasyat Svajano Nasasyat, etc., says one should not take up a position of responsibility, or one should not accept dependence in whatever capacity if one is not prepared to release the dependent or dependence from the cycle of birth and death. Samupetya mrityum. Na mochayeta samupetya mrityum. Mochayeta means to release. Right? When Arjuna had captured Ashwatthama, Draupadi came running saying, Muchatam, Muchatam, please let him, release him, release him. So mochayeta means one should have the capacity, one is signing up for the responsibility of delivering one's dependence from the clutches of birth and death. Now it doesn't mean that the entire responsibility falls on the parents, if you will. So we focus on parents because Maharaj Priyavrata is playing the role of a parent in addition to playing the role of guru in this sense. Generally, father plays the role of guru in the Gurukula system or a Vedic system. Generally, not necessarily, generally. But the first guru is the mother. Because it's the mother's consciousness, if you will. It's the mother's role that actually helps bring the child to a stage for accepting the father's instruction. So in this way, mother and father, Janani and Pita, they play a partnership. They're into a partnership. The partnership is not, let's satisfy each other's senses very nicely. That's our partnership. The partnership is not, we'll stay together in all difficulties and we will enjoy the gifts of life together, sharing equally. This is also not the partnership. Of course, in worldly sense, yes. But in a Vedic sense, no. In a Vedic sense, partnership means that each partner executes his and her role perfectly. executes those roles perfectly. The mother's role is to provide culture to the child. The father's role is to provide discipline and culture, of course. The culture is the basic etiquettes of respect, other kinds of expressions of that etiquette, that culture that they are born into. And to second responsibility of the parents is to help the child mature into a responsible man or woman. If the parents are irresponsible, the child will never grow up to be responsible. Try what one might want. They may hear about responsibility in Bhagavatam class, in school. They may meet very responsible people, all of that. But guess what? It will not work. Or it may work with a lot of effort. But if the parents are responsible, the children are given, it's not like some gift given, but on a very subtle platform, those samskaras make the child cultured and responsible. And what children need as part of training is not instruction. In the beginning, a child doesn't need instruction. In fact, a child cannot process instruction. Take a 3-year-old and you give as much instruction as you want, it will not work. It works only in the sense that the instructions remain as seeds. Right? Instructions are powerful, the sound vibration, but they remain dormant as seeds. And seeds fructify or germinate in a good environment, an environment of proper culture. That environment of proper culture is the example by the parents. If the parents don't give good example, all good instructions will remain dormant as seeds. They will never fructify. So the parents' second set of responsibility is to provide the best example for the child or children. Now, all parents, this is assuming that the parents themselves were trained, right? Now, the modern context, parents are not trained. In fact, one doesn't need training to become a parent. Like Prabhupada would say, you don't need to teach a young boy, you don't need to teach a young man how to get attracted to a young girl. You don't need to teach that. In fact, you need to teach how not to. Because the attraction is natural, it's there. Natural in the sense that it's inbuilt with a body that has mind and senses. What is to be taught is how not to be driven by that attraction. So assuming the parents are trained, let's say the parents are not trained, which is mostly the case. Then the parents have a third responsibility, is to go get themselves trained. Generally what the parents do is they say, I'm not trained, my child or children, you should be trained. So whatever training the children get works counter to the environment at home because the parents are not trained, nor are they making any effort at getting trained. So the children, instead of learning from the parents, and first of all, without respect for the parents, one cannot advance in spiritual life. Parents means all superiors. The parents are like the clear manifestation of superiors. Now, superiority, it's a sidebar. Superiority is understood by at least 3 criteria, or on the basis of 3 things. One is age. Anyone older than us, whether we like it or not, is superior to us by age. Assuming that with age comes wisdom. So one is superior by age in the sense that there is supposedly wisdom. Second, one is superior by social position, like a sannyasi. Sannyasi is of course also more knowledgeable, but in terms of social status, brahmana or sannyasi. In fact, even if we meet Mayavadi sannyasis, we offer our respect, we offer obeisances. We may not hear from them, but we are supposed to offer respect to that ashram, sannyas ashram. If a brahmana comes, we offer our respect. So that's superiority, social status. And third and most importantly is spiritual realization. And for spiritual realization, age and social status don't matter. The person can be younger, person can be from a lower social status, but respect for their spiritual realization stands higher. When Srimad Bhagavatam was being spoken, Shukadeva Goswami was there, Narada and Vyasadeva, both gurus were also there. Guru and Paramaguru. Still, it is described that Shukadeva Goswami spoke because they were respecting his spiritual realization. It's not a pecking order. It is the sages all consented that Shukadeva Goswami would be the perfect person to speak to Maharaj Parikshit. So parents, generally, they tend to exert their superiority simply on the basis of age. Right? I am your parent, you have to listen to me because I'm your parent. So the child will succumb to that, power, if you will, only up to a particular stage. After that, they don't care. And children rebel, children very quickly pick up on hypocrisy. Hypocrisy means one standard for the children and a completely different standard for the parents. It's not all right. Children will ask, if it is so good, why are you not following it? In the Sunday feast class, Chandramali Maharaj gave an example. That if a child smokes, the parent says, you should not smoke. Smoking is bad for you. So the child will ask, then why are you smoking? I'm an adult. So for the child, the lesson that they take is, oh, when I grow up, I can be bad. But more importantly, the children, they very quickly recognize the hypocrisy. And when they recognize hypocrisy, what gets affected? The respect in the heart gets affected. They cannot continue to respect their parents. And for a conditioned soul, when respect goes away, then the rest of spiritual advancement is something that we can forget easily. Just forget about it. It won't happen. Without respect, it's the foundation on which spiritual knowledge stands. Right? As soon as we lose respect, we cannot learn from that person or persons. Therefore, Krishna first uses the word pranipata. When meeting a tattvadarshi, the first quality is pranipat, offering of respect. Without that respectful environment, without that respectful predilection or respectful mentality, not predilection, mentality, inquiry and service cannot manifest. So as soon as the child or children lose respect for superiors, finish. It completely destroys the entire foundation on which anything the child will grow up to learn. So parents carry a very, very, very high and first responsibility. So for superiority to act in the sense of spiritual realization, which is the actual one, parents should recognize. What is it that I need or we need to be effective parents to our children? And just as the child should not be, one should make all efforts to training the child, the parent should make all necessary efforts to train themselves or become trained. Then, like in the case of Maharaj Priyavrata, the children will grow up to be very responsible, very amenable to spiritual realizations, to spiritual teachings. Now, one may ask the question, we see that even in the family of very great persons, there are some children that are atheistic. There is this example in the family of Srila Advaita Acharya. 3 of his sons did not turn out to be devotees. That is not something to do with parenting. We're only talking about the responsibility of parenting. So for this, the parents have a 4th responsibility, and that's called being detached. Parents who cannot be detached cannot help their children. Because what basically they're doing is using the child, because of attachments, using the child to fulfill their dreams. The child becomes the extended body for fulfilling their dreams. And they want the child or children to do exactly what they wanted to do in their lives and could not do, or they are doing, they like it, and they want it to continue. If I'm into sense gratification, I really think it's a good thing. I want to make sure that my child or children also perpetuate that sense gratification. It's called attachment. The first principles of detachment is, again, respecting an individual's free will choice. It doesn't mean that parents cannot give advice or input or opinion. Everybody is entitled to an opinion, right? When we walk out on the street, everybody is entitled to an opinion. In fact, Bhagavatam also says, Shvavid varaha ushtra karai samsuta purusha pashu. Even the persons who are like dogs, hogs, camels and asses, they have an opinion. And they express it. And that's okay. In Kali Yuga, opinion is accepted as fact, which is not necessary. Only Brahmanas, qualified Brahmanas, their opinion is fact. Because like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Same yukta tamo mataha. The word mata means opinion. When Krishna expresses opinion, it's a truth, it's a fact. When a Shudra expresses an opinion, it's a falsity. One shouldn't give it too much weightage. So opinions and facts become very separated by the time Kali Yuga manifests. So parents can give their opinions, and learned parents who are actually wise and, let's say, spiritually strong, they can give opinion and they should give opinion. But that opinion is given with the understanding that the children can take it or leave it. That's their choice. And the parent shouldn't get bent out of shape because the child or children didn't take that advice. They can try their best to express their opinion, but that's about it. So without these characteristics, children will not grow up to respecting and becoming open to higher authority. So parents have the first order of business and responsibility in culturing their children to being amenable for spiritual teachings to come by. Maharaj Priyavrata did a fantastic job. So he was excellent at renunciation, and he was excellent at being a Manu, and took care of his responsibilities thoroughly well. Any questions or comments or to add? Okay.
Conditioned life is taking place on habit.
Conditioned life is taking place on habit.
We're just habitually doing things.
Yeah.
And I can see if I was like a parent and conditioned by my, conditioned nature, then just like out of habit, I'm doing things that's not healthy for the upliftment of my children and so on. And I may not, and because it's habit, I'm not able to recognize it as such also. So that's one problem. Then on the other hand, if it's pointed out to me, I don't appreciate.
Of course not.
So this seems like it seems like a very strong dilemma. Is there any hope in this situation?
In the situation the way you're describing, no, there is no hope. First of all, a human being is not meant to live by habit. Habits are only in animals. And the habits are described. Ahara nidra bhayamaithunamcha. These are habits. Samanyam etat pashubhir naranam. And this is dharma adhiko hi visheshataha. Dharma means that by which one will come out of these habits. Dharmena hina pashubhir samana. So dharma, and which talked about Manu gives principles of dharma to help the human being break out of habits that are manifesting out of conditioned nature. There are two ways one develops habits. One is just conditioned nature, and the other is a very voluntary practice of something else. Like if we were left to our conditioned nature, we wouldn't show up for Mangalarati, because that's conditioned nature. But the habit that we cultivate is that we voluntarily try to break old habit and cultivate new habits. And where did we know that new habit needs to be cultivated? It came by principles of Dharma. So parenting, that's how I started it, is parenting is that one recognizes, or that couple or partnership recognizes, we have to cultivate a whole new set of habits that we may have been accustomed, that we don't know what they are, and we should inquire and learn and cultivate those new habits. Otherwise, is there any hope? No, there isn't a hope. Then they would be like what Prabhupada says, having children like cats and dogs. Even cats and dogs have children, Prabhupada says. So what's so great about you? That's coming up, right? In the next 5th chapter. That's exactly the lesson being imparted. Nayam deho deha bhajam na loke. Kashtan kaman arhate vid bhujanya. He says even stool-eating hogs have children. What's so great about you? Even they engage in sense gratification. What's so great about you or about anyone? Tapodivyam putraka. That tapodivyam is, in this context, culturing habits given by Manu or Dharma properly. The values that human being lives by. Parents have a very, very important responsibility, to transfer principles that they live by. Well, I shouldn't say that way, then it creates a mess. The parents have a very special responsibility to transfer values that come down in parampara. If those values aren't given forward, then it's very difficult. We all live according to two paramparas, right, simultaneously. One is seminal parampara and the other is spiritual parampara. Seminal parampara means what's been coming from our forefathers, like that. Now when seminal parampara and spiritual parampara, they align, then the child is most benefited. Usually it's the spiritual parampara fighting with the seminal parampara, undoing everything that it has been inculcated. I'll end with this story. I already ended, so answered the question. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Prabhupada would know his story, but there were two friends. This is not exactly Prabhupada's, but the same story. I have the details changed a little bit. There were two friends, and both of them were interested in learning to play the guitar. So one friend, as he found out there is a place where they teach guitar lessons, and he signed up, came home, and told his roommate, "Hey, I signed up for guitar lessons." "Oh, how much is he charging you?" "So $50 an hour." Said, "Oh, I should go." And he went to the same place. So the guitar teacher asked, "Do you know how to play the guitar?" He said, "Yeah, I have my own guitar and I'm self-taught." So the teacher says, "All right, I'll charge you $100 an hour." So he said, "Wait a minute. My roommate, who's completely illiterate about guitar, he doesn't know, he can't tell the difference between guitar and mandolin or something. You're charging him $50 an hour. I at least know something." So the teacher said, "That's the problem. The first $50 is to help you unlearn, and the second $50 is to help you learn properly." So it takes extra effort when the seminal parampara is exactly opposite to the spiritual parampara. So where does the alignment come from? From parents. Because the previous forefathers cannot do anything, they're dead and gone. It's the parents whose responsibility is to align the two paramparas. Until then, there is no hope. Okay. Jitendra Prabhu is holding after that. Is it online question or Leela Manju's?
I think it was Bhakti Vinod Thakur that said, actions speak louder than precept. Is that correct, Prabhu?
I don't know exactly how he said it, but yes. We say that prachar is more effective than achar. I'm sorry, achar is more effective than prachar. What am I saying? Achar is more effective than prachar. But prachar is what we do more.
I see. And then I've heard the expression, your actions speak so loud I can't hear a word you're saying.
Thank you. Then, that's your feedback for class?
Then I remembered the Pope. The Pope was, and the news reporter came on, and because there's a lot of, not all the Catholics were in line with the Pope. So he said, so much respect for the man, but little respect for what he had to say.
I have to tell you a joke if time permits after this.
So, thank you very much.
Okay, Leela Manju.
You were talking about how children very quickly can see hypocrisy. Like if we do something, then they can immediately tell we are saying something and doing something else. But then at the same time, if there is no respect at all for superiors, then they're much more lost than, even if... What I'm trying to say is there has to be some kind of respect that has to be extended to superiors, without which everything is lost.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
I agree. So there are two ways. One is you enforce, like they say, you can demand respect. But ideally you should command respect. So when a parent demands respect, up till a time, the child will follow. Yeah. But beyond a point in time when the intelligence becomes more mature, they will not continue. They'll become resentful. Or something, fault finding, that I cannot. It actually creates a stress or a schism in the relationship. Because they will recognize, maybe not when they're young, but when they grow up, that it was just power play. That my parent was exerting their power. Understand? Then they identify themselves as victims of that power. So then they will lose even more respect.
So my question is, from the dependent's perspective, because no person in the material world or no parent is completely perfect, like from the dependent's side, how do they respect their parents, irrespective of...
Because what respect comes not because... let me say it this way. A child will not lose respect towards the parents because the parents are not perfect. When children are young, they see their parents as perfect, Superman, Superwoman. When they grow up, they see, they also have shortcomings. They're not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But what keeps the respect or grows it is honesty. The parents can say, I don't know everything. This is what I know. Or, you picked something up, that was a mistake on my part. I made a mistake. The respect grows actually. That they're not perfect, but they also knew that.
How about from the dependent side, when there is no communication or something, but still, how does the dependent not fault find with the parents, and how can they continue?
So there is a culture, there's an environment. Just for the sake of this discussion, we isolated the parent-child relationship from the rest of the community. Now you put that back into the real context of things. The community members are also participating. Like it says, takes a village to grow a child. So the rest of the community is participating. Strengthening the parent-child relationship, very importantly. The parents are strengthening the teacher-student relationship, etc. So then it doesn't matter if the parents communicated or not, the rest of the society is communicating. Somehow or the other, they're knowing how nice my parents are, how much they're doing for me. Children don't have the capacity to see all this. They have to be told. A parent may or may not say, how much am I doing for you? It's not so effective. When others will say, how much your parents are doing for you, it's very effective. Like that. Now think broader. Okay? Okay.
My fate, but then fate changed. So
fate changes. Himanshu.
I wanted to first appreciate that if we don't have children, there's so many ways we can apply this. One is in expressing it to others. Two is when we are trying to express things to others, as you said, achar is better than prachar. So first we should be proper before we expect others or teach them to be proper. But then there's also those of us who are thinking, my parents weren't like that or whatever, so I have all these issues to deal with, right? So what do I do now? So I was thinking, this topic came up with changing the habits and stuff, and it's going to be different for every person, but what should we look at as the superior principle to address, that we should attack the root of the problem in terms of, it sounds like a stupid question, I guess, if I ask it like this, but in terms of Krishna consciousness, trying to just develop a spiritual perspective, or should we only worry about the habits in terms of how much they're affecting our ability to take up Krishna consciousness, or where do we attack the issue, because we can say, okay, I need to go back and learn how to respect my parents and like yada yada yada, but where's the what's the principle on which to work with that issue? What we need to do for ourselves to develop the respect for our superiors and.
Well, the spiritual principle comes from instruction, and there is an instruction, amanina manadena, for us to be able to kirtaniya sadahari. And the ultimate goal of life is kirtaniya sadahari. That's the both the process and the ultimate perfection. Sada is understood as constantly, like at every moment. Sada also is in every situation. And although the word sarvatra is used, sarvatra means at every place. In this case, sada includes at every place. Now for that, amanina manadena build the first foundational principles. So our understanding of things comes from hearing, and that's what guides us mostly. And for the spiritual instructions to actually settle in the heart or in the consciousness, there are certain things that have to be done on the level of the body, mind, emotions, etc. Of course, spirit as well, most importantly. Hearing and chanting are like the main things for the soul. But there are things that need to be done on the level of the body, taking a bath, making sure health is all right, etc. Timing of eating, how much eating, etc. All that. That's at the level of the body. The level of the mind is developing satisfaction, etc. At the level of emotions, those certain things need to be addressed. Either separately or inside-out process. That if the hearing and chanting is very nice, hearing and chanting means hearing and application, then it's an inside-out process. Certain things that we do at the different levels are also important. Jagannath Das Babaji, when his servant Biharilal fell sick, told him no need to go to a doctor. Put a little tulsi leaf on his tongue and said, keep chanting. For most of us, we may need to see a doctor. So it may be necessary to do certain things. Does that help? Okay. Shivangi. Okay. Shiva, that's all I remember then. Beyond that is confusing.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
thank you for the class. My question is on that point wherein you said that not everyone's opinion can be taken as a fact. So
That's correct.
yeah, so amongst devotees, sometimes we end up in getting different opinions, and not even only from the devotee community, but even I have personally experienced that I have asked some questions to different spiritual masters also, and they also differ in their opinions. So ultimately it came to ask your spiritual master. So how is it that for everything we have to accept the opinion of our spiritual master?
In general, let's say, certain spiritual masters who absolutely don't know us. That's the first time they're sitting in a class and we're hearing from them. Okay? Very inspired. If you ask a very personal question, it is unfair in one sense. Of course, Super Soul can speak through them. It is unfair to ask a question like that. What kind of answer can they give? They can say some things that are at best general principles, like if hearing and chanting are good, other things will become clearer. So specific personal questions are for persons who know us. And general questions are meant to ask for anyone. I mean, if you ask any Vaishnava for opinion, they'll say hearing and chanting are most important. So that opinion is fact, because they're speaking Krishna's words. But people take opinions from every place. Within devotee community, generally we know that opinion is fact because they're speaking Krishna's words. This is called, the counter principle is given in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, when Krishna says Yoga Nashta. Yoga Nashta means when opinion is not fact. That's when Yoga Nashta happens, right? Because everything else that is spoken according to Shastra is a fact. It's not opinion. But we get opinions, there's an opinion marketplace. People give opinion even without our asking. What to speak, how much we get from asking. We shouldn't ask. We should just work with what has come without asking and ignore it. Okay, so I'll say it a little differently. The spirit of inquiry is very important for the soul to go from conditioned state to liberated state. But if one doesn't know how to utilize that spirit of inquiry, one will go and inquire from anybody. Then that inquiry, if it is not to the proper source, that inquiry will further condition the person. The soul is already bewildered. Muhyati. It becomes parama muhya. 3, we were talking of Paramahamsa, Paramakamsa and Paramamuhya. These 3 persons. Spirit of inquiry must be nurtured carefully in relationship, not just randomly. So we should not ask. Then there is no problem of not following. Suppose you ask someone, they give you opinion, then you don't follow, then that's terrible. Better not to ask. Better to ask questions from people who know us. But it depends what kind of question you're asking. Don't ask anything at all. That's not my point. Tomorrow we have a visiting sannyasi who gives a wonderful class. We should ask questions. That's nice. But don't ask questions that are unfair. Maharaj, my work situation is exactly like this. What should I do? I don't know. So they'll give general answers. Sorry? Acharya Nistha.
Thank you, Prabhu. I had a question on the point we're discussing is the Manu, and we know that he left the Manu Samhita, which Prabhupada highly esteemed as the guidebook, sublime teachings for all of mankind. I was wondering today, how much do we follow, or what is our perspective on those teachings? Is that relevant in being practiced even today? Are there parts that we've not very strictly followed, or I don't know so much about it?
I don't know. But we should understand, Manu gives a lot of details. So every detail is difficult to absorb. But Manu gets the principles from Bhagavad Gita. Right? Manave praho, manurikshva kave abravit. So when we study Bhagavad Gita, we are culturing the principles for becoming a human being. And that's more important right now. In a perfect varnashram system, they have all these details. That's my understanding. I haven't read anywhere Prabhupada said this is why or that is why. But it's not easily accessible. There are certain hints of Manu Samhita here and there that Prabhupada gives, like in Bhagavad Gita purports and some other places. He wants to add something to that. That one? About Manu Samhita? No, separate question?
Can I ask a follow-up?
Oh yeah, sure.
Just because I've heard, it seems, on some topics there is a little bit of a, dichotomy of understanding. Some are taking that scripture very literally in trying to apply it, and others are saying, it's not so. I'm just trying to understand whether those teachings, you kind of hear the conservative and the liberal side of some of those points. So what would you recommend, or you were just indicating they're based more on Bhagavad Gita. Those are spiritual principles that we should approach first of all.
My point was, I try to say it in a cultured way, that let's just stick with Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. That's what I was saying. Whether to take scripture literally or it depends context. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has this conversation with Prakashananda Saraswati that scripture must be taken literally, except when it doesn't make sense to do something literally. Then you have to take the second meaning. That was the argument offered to Prakashananda Saraswati. Because the Mayavadi's tendency is to interpret everything. Even something is directly, interpret everything. So he said everything must be taken literally as it is. You interpret only when the as it is statement doesn't make sense. Grammatically or contextually doesn't make sense. Gokulananda Prabhu and then Bhaktaluk.
Regarding the verse, the Guruna Sasyat, one should not become a guru, teacher, or parent if one cannot liberate his dependents. So, in our society of human beings, it's natural to become a mother or a parent. And so for who is this verse spoken? For what type of people? For every human being? That's
Yes.
one question.
Yes.
And the other is in ISKCON. How we ask the leaders, they ask other devotees to become teachers or to become mentors, like that. So how do we apply this verse? How do we know that this person is ready he can liberate someone?
Okay.
Or should be taken so seriously?
Okay, first part of the question, it is for everyone. That verse applies to all human beings. Second, mochayeta samupeti mrutyam is to be understood this way. It's not that the parent, suppose the child never meets a guru or something, it's that the parent is supposed to liberate the child. May not be empowered by Krishna to do so. Because Guru Tattva is not necessarily empowered within a parent. Only a feature of it or an aspect of it may be. It means that the parents will not do anything against the spiritual advancement of the child. Whether be it a king, be it a parent, be it a mother or a father, a relative. They are all doing things that do not distract the soul, do not hurt the soul or impede the soul from the ultimate goal of life. So the responsibility is very clear. So parents cannot tell the child, become a wonderful sense gratifier. They may not say it like that, but they will say something like, become a good person of this society. You should have financial stability. You should have this. Not that financial stability is not necessary. That's not the point. Point is, instructions that distract or may be counterproductive to the spiritual advancement should not be given. Or instruction should be given in consultation with Guru so that the advancement of the soul is sustained. That's what it means to me. Yeah, that's right. So even one becomes a mentor, this I can speak with realization a little bit. The role is very simple in one sense. The role is to strengthen that person's relationship with the spiritual masters. That's the role. One is not empowered to do independently things. Strengthening that relationship, enhancing the faith in Guru. That's the role. So in that sense, samupeti mrityu. Not Mochayeta. He's waiting to add something to. Yeah, add, please. We are not qualified. Well, sometimes we are asked to do things, so we will become qualified. Even if we are not qualified, it is important that we do things in a way that the qualification will descend. The qualification may be there, it may be dormant, but it must come. I was reading the other day, Prabhupada says that every human being must manifest 30 qualities as a perfection of human life. These 30 are given by Narada Muni, speaking to Yudhishthira Maharaj. So one must become qualified. But our understand what are the Well, directly, let's just taking the question at straight face value. What are the consequences? That one may not be able to strengthen that implicit faith in Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. That's the risk. That's the risk. What's the consequences on that person? What's the consequences on the person himself? Like the mentor or something? Yeah, and King Vena also took responsibility, but he didn't fulfill it. Yeah, so like the extreme case of it is Maharaj Vena. The Brahmana sprinkled water and uttered a curse. So unqualified persons can also cause havoc. When Dhruva Maharaj became angry on the Yakshas, he was stopped by Manu. Please don't do this. You're acting against the dharma of being a person who actually protects. So he stopped. So there are checks and balances in the universal system of things. There should be. Checks and balances, one may not be qualified, but one is accountable. And that accountability protects the lack of qualification or compensates for the lack of qualification. If nothing else, someone will learn from us, may not learn scripture, may not learn the deeper aspects of things, but minimally they will learn accountability, and that's good enough. Someone else can teach something else. There is something we can give, right? When we say not qualified, inherent in that statement is that I have not received anything, which is not a true statement. We have received something. Correct? We have received something. That is what we pass on. It may be a recognition that I am not qualified. We can pass that on. But there is something to pass on. Jai Jagannath Prabhu. Correct. Right. Correct. Right. Correct. Now, just a little, taking the verse literally, Acharya Nishta Prabhu, mentor can never be rejected because the verse doesn't mention mentor. It says you can reject guru, parents, teacher. You can never reject mentor. It never says mentor nasasyat. That's the danger of literal. Interpreting with when not necessary. Bhakta Lok.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much. I know we're over. This in relation to the discussion on bringing up children or any kind of dependent from both perspectives of the person doing the training, all that. I was reading one thing. I get these regular emails from Vaisheshika Prabhu. He sends out these nice little inspirational things, and one that I read just this morning actually is relevant. I'd like to share it, and if you have some thoughts, I'd also like to hear that.
Okay.
It's also kind of a follow-up on some discussion we were having from Bhagavad Gita class yesterday about how to receive the mercy Krishna. He's compared to the rain, giving so much mercy to everyone, but then different persons are receptive. So anyway, Vaisheshika Prabhu shared this verse from the Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, that one who is completely submissive, who has cultivated complete submission, he can receive the complete mercy of the Lord. So I was just thinking about that in context of the discussion this morning, that it is the duty of the person getting training, receiving training, to cultivate that submission. So I was hoping you could share a few things on that if you feel.
On submission? Submission is a big topic. In fact, that's the whole thing that Krishna consciousness is the biggest struggle with. We can even wake up in the morning, but becoming submissive is tough. But submission, by definition, Prabhupada makes it very simple. I have a conception, my guru has a conception, I accept my guru's conception. This is submission. And one who can do like that receives full mercy, because within that instruction is the mercy. So our whole cultivation of sadhana bhakti is in very small delta increments. We are trying to accept the instructions of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And so that's the constant thing that we have. So we accept sometimes periphery of an instruction, not the core of the instruction. That's a good first starting point. Or we accept instructions that align with what we want to do. That is still, farther, but okay. And slowly the idea is to develop where we may accept instructions that I guess we don't like, or that we don't think of it that way. That's called submission. Voluntarily subjugating ourselves to higher order of instruction. Because unless the receiver is lower than the giver, mercy cannot flow. If they think they're at equal, then also it's stagnant, nothing flows. Problem is, if you think higher then we give our mercy to the source. By my following your instruction, I'm actually doing you a favor. You understand? So the receiver is always at a level lower. The lower, the higher the intensity of flow of mercy. Just basic physics. So this is the physics of spiritual life. The lower, then there is more intensity. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. I didn't get to say my joke.